Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we are gonna build the get pet by ID endpoint in MuleSoft. This is the endpoint we'll be implementing in this tutorial. Let's switch over to Anypoint Studio. Okay, the first thing we need to do is create a new Mule configuration file. So you can right click and create that one. I'm gonna name it find pet by ID. This is XML file. Right. Once the configuration file is created, you will set it open in Anypoint Studio. You should also see the Mule palette on the right hand side. If it's not visible, you can enable it from the window menu. The Mule palette contains all the components we'll use to build our application. The first component we need is an HTTP listener, which will expose our REST endpoint. You can simply drag and drop the HTTP listener onto the canvas. Now let's configure it. First, I'll give the listener a meaningful name. So in this case, I'm going to name it find pet by ID because that's the name of our endpoint. Next, we need to configure the HTTP listener. Click the connector configuration and create a new configuration. Here you can specify the port number and timeout values and the base path. Yeah. So for this project, I'm gonna use API/v1 as the base path. If you'd like, you can also test the connection to make sure everything is configured correctly. Once that's done, let's return to HTTP listener configuration. Now we need to define the endpoint path. Here you can see we have a field to set the path. So our path is according to the Saga definition is pet pet ID. Pet ID is the path parameter that we're going to give. So I'll set the path to pet ID. So in MuleSoft, path parameters are defined using curly braces. Next, I'm gonna add a logger component from the Mule palette. The logger is useful for printing messages to console so we can verify that the request is reaching in different stages of our flow. So here I'm going to give some custom message just to verify. Yeah, so I think now everything is ready to run the application. You can simply right click and run the application. So at this level, you don't need to do any other configuration. Simply you can run the application. The project will take a few moments to build and start. So when it's ready, let's open an API client. In this case, I'm using a Bruno. Let's create a HTTP request from Bruno. So it's a get endpoint. So I'm giving some random ID. Right. So if I invoke, if you go to the console, now you can see that the custom logger message that we entered. Also, we received 200 from the our API client. At the moment, the endpoint doesn't return any response body, and let's change that. So if you go to HTTP listener and go to responses, here you can configure different response settings, including status code, headers, and response body. For now, I'm going to return a simple static response so we can verify everything is working correctly. I'm entering the sample JSON response. Later in the series, we'll replace this static response with a dynamic data. For example, we'll learn how to retrieve data from a database, process it, and construct a proper response based on the request parameter, in this case petId. For now, our goal is simply to confirm that the endpoint is working correctly. So I'll save the changes. Okay, since Mule support hot deployment, there's no need to stop and restart the application. So as soon as you save, it will redeploy your changes. Now you can go back to API client, the Bruno, and run the request, and now you can see it returns the response. Also, you can verify that from the logger message. That's pretty much about the initial setup and run. So in this video, we learn how to create a Mule configuration file, configure an HTTP listener, set the base path and the other endpoint path, define a path parameter, also add a logger component, and run the Mule application. Also using a external API client, test the endpoint whether this works fine. Finally return a simple static response. So in the next video, we'll continue enhancing this endpoint by making the response dynamic and exploring more MuleSoft component. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.